everyone. How are you doing today? Welcome to Trail Talk. I'm Edie, coming to you live from the Chisholm Trail Heritage Center right here in Duncan, Oklahoma. And I have three beautiful young ladies with me today who are, you'll never guess, rodeo queens, right? I mean, you would never know by looking at their attire, right? So they're in town for the Prairie Circuit Finals Rodeo. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Okay, and they are representing Oklahoma, Kansas, and Nebraska. And I'm gonna let them introduce themselves to you. And they're just on here for, if you guys are here to watch Lou, she'll be on in just a few minutes. They just happen to be here, and we thought we'd give them a chance to say hi. So go ahead, I'll let you introduce yourselves.
Hi all, my name is Kylie Myers, Miss Rodeo, Oklahoma.
Hi everyone, I'm Tiffany McCaffrey, Miss Rodeo, Kansas.
Hello, I'm Jolie Walworth, Miss Rodeo, Nebraska.
So we are pretty excited that they're here in town and they're here representing their states. Because the Prairie Circuit Finals is for rodeo cowboys from Oklahoma, Kansas, and Nebraska, right?
Exactly.
Okay, and so if you guys want to go out and see some great rodeo this weekend, when does it start? Do you know, tonight?
Tomorrow.
Oh, tomorrow?
Yep, tomorrow night at 7:30 p.m. Performances Friday and Saturday at the Stevens County Fairgrounds.
Okay, you heard it. Stevens County Fairgrounds right here in Duncan, starting at 7:30 Friday night. And will it be the same time Saturday night?
Yes.
So, okay. All right. So some big time rodeo stuff going on, and get a chance to say hi to these lovely ladies, I'm sure, if you're out there. And girls, thank you very much for stopping by.
Thank you
It was,
for having us.
yeah, it was so much fun to get to meet you.
Yeah. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, I hope you have a great weekend.
Thank
Okay,
you.
you're welcome.
Thank you.
So if you guys want to tell them bye,
Bye.
yeah, stop back by again sometime, ladies.
We will.
Oh, and okay, and our board member, Kristen, I went blank on your last name, Kristen. Eden? Okay, Kristen Eden is here with the rodeo queens so they don't get lost in this big city of Duncan. They're being escorted around by Kristen. She's a great board member for us here at the Heritage Center, and thanks for bringing them by, Kristen. We'll see you girls. Bye-bye. Y'all were lucky they took their mask off for you. They've been masked up, so they look a little bit like outlaws, don't you think? Lou, didn't you get that feeling? Yeah, exactly. A little shifty-eyed.
Matching mask here.
Yeah. Well, for those of you who are watching because our friend Lou Baggett is here, wait no more because here she is. And Lou said that she didn't really mind the rodeo queens jumping in because she's the mom of a rodeo queen. Who knew? I think you must have.
I even have a painting of my daughter as a rodeo queen. I didn't bring it.
Wow. Now, wouldn't that have been something if she would have brought that? Just happens to bring it. Well, welcome to Trail Talk, Lou.
It's good to be here.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you could come. You're pretty active here in Duncan and this area as far as the arts go.
I'm pretty active. I'm right now, of course, the president of the Chisholm Trail Art Council, and that includes, I'm on the board for the different things that they do, but one of the big ones, of course, is art, that we have the gallery, and so that's my big thing. But they also do the music and other things.
Right, the concert series.
Education in the schools, which is also like one of my favorite things that they do. So I always participate in Art Explosion.
Oh,
and,
right,
taught some of that,
the summer
classes.
program, right. Well, our community is very privileged to have you here, and just that you aren't just an artist for yourself. You're an artist for the community. You share your skills, your talents, your thoughts. She's the artist who has been teaching Elena Hill.
Yeah, now I want to say though, Elena is so amazing that she teaches me, because I'm the fastest painter in the West. Anybody will tell you that. And Elena is probably the slowest.
Right.
And
yeah,
so,
by her own admission, she told us that.
Because she's very, very detailed and very, very focused. And I'm just like, and so she's like, has slowed me down and made me focus a little more lately. So that was really good.
Well,
so
there you go.
It's just good to always have buddies that paint or do what you do and feed off of each other. And I think that's real important. I've had other groups here in town that I've painted with for years, and they were just instrumental in getting to me where I am right now.
Right,
So,
right.
yeah, I think that's a neat thing to have in Duncan, is a big art community.
Yes, and I mean, you may not even realize how interconnected and large the art community really is.
It is. It's very large here.
We do have so many artists with so many different skills, and I mean, if you've watched any trail talks at all, you know that the range of medium
Yes.
people use, and just their, I don't know,
Well,
their
the professionalism that you
yes,
have here.
yes.
I watched Ben Harrington with his and just his talking about the way he does his projects.
Mhm.
I was just floored. I thought he was amazing.
Yes,
And,
his,
yeah.
that, I guess this, I can't think of a better word, maybe the system that people use,
Yes.
you know, because just like you and Elena, she's really slow, you're really fast. Ben's very methodical. You know, everybody has a different way, and yet the outcome is something visually pleasing and just something that brings joy to people. You know, I mean, it's just so great that everybody
Yeah,
can do
yeah.
things in such a different way and just create all of these things. So tell us a little bit about your background. Have you always dabbled with art?
I have. Just growing up, my parents were real good to supply me with lots of sketchbooks, and I just filled them up. And my mother did some art, and so I would steal her stuff and try painting and doing different things
Mhm.
through the years. And I mentioned to Edie earlier that I grew up part of my time in Red River, and so you had the whole Taos art community thing, and so that was,
Right.
I think, a big influence on me. I just wanted to be an artist. That's what I wanted to do. And of course, then you go to college to be an artist, but you get married and have kids, and life happens.
Right.
And so I do have I finally finished, after a marriage and 2 kids later, finished college with a BS in education with a minor, or actually 2 fields. I can teach high school English, or I can teach high school art.
Oh.
And so, and I have done both.
Okay, very good. And so do you consider yourself a professional artist now?
I don't know what that means exactly, but I guess if you.
I don't know. It sounded like a good question. Maybe in my head it sounded bad.
I guess I am. I sell art, and I do
Right.
art, and that's pretty much my life. So.
Okay. Well, at what point would you say you kind of evolved into that? Where it's,
okay. Well, when we moved here a little over, it's probably been close to 25 years ago, from New Mexico, and my kids were, just about to finish high school, and so I was free to do my own thing at that point.
Right.
And I took a watercolor class with Pat Holloway Dixon.
Okay.
And that was I think a real turning point, because that puts you into not just college art or just art on your own, but actually I joined the art guild and started doing some shows and started selling some art.
Mhm.
About that time, I started teaching some girls, anywhere from 5 or 6 girls to 12 or 13 girls at my house privately. And so that got us all in doing more art. And so I would say that at that point, taking the class with Pat,
Mhm.
she showed me how to get into doing shows and selling and stuff.
Right. It's occurring to me as you're describing that experience that even though artists typically work alone, I mean, you choose your subject and you create, and yet every artist that I have talked to, the artist community, the art guild, the different I just went galleries, the places where you take your art and show your art and sell your art. All of those, it's a much more of a group effort, it seems, at some point, where it's not just you out there all by yourself.
Well, I think you feed off each other and you learn things from each other. and being a part of a group like the Art Guild or the Art Council. The Art Guild was absorbed by the Chisholm Trail Art Council.
Okay.
And so we call that the gallery. And so now then we have artists who show there, but we also put on several shows to give people in the area of mostly Oklahoma, but other people come also to show their work. And that's what you want, is you want to be able to show. And
Right.
and so,
It's, I mean, of course, we have social media today, and we have, you know, the internet and everything, so you can set up web pages, but still, I can look at your pictures online, but seeing them in person, it just, I don't know, they go to the next level. And so, you know, you have to have a way for that to happen.
well, I think it's feedback. It's a growth part to start being with other artists, seeing what they do, how they do it, and presenting it. You know, like in English, when you're like learning to write an essay, you know, you have to think about where you're going and how you're going to do it and what you're presenting. But you write your rough draft and all that, but then you present your piece as finished with no mistakes to your teacher or whoever.
Right.
And you have to consider your audience. Who's going to read this piece and what are they going to think? And I think all of that happens with art also. You can do as many as you want, and what are you going to do? Put them under the bed. You know?
Right.
And so it's good to be able to get them out and show them. And I told you earlier that I always tell my students, sell your work, because take pictures of it, keep record that you did it, but sell it, because it gets out there, people see it, and that's just another way of growing.
Right. And so any of her pieces today, you would be willing to sell.
Yeah.
And so if you see something you like, we will put her contact
right.
information on the comment section of this video. And so if you guys want to contact Lou about buying something, well, better get on it, because someone else might beat you to it.
I do have a website. It's not totally finished, but you can get a hold of me through it, which is just loubaggett.com.
Okay, there you go. That's easy enough.
That's pretty easy.
Yeah. So let's start down here
Okay.
on this end, and we're going to kind of work our way down this great hallway where we are able to put people's art up.
Okay.
And tell us, okay, first, before we get started, I'm so excited because Lou's favorite medium is pastels.
Yes.
And so that's, you know, if you've ever, is it like oil pastels? Is that
No,
what
this
you're
is chalk. This is
chalk? Okay,
yeah,
chalk,
chalk.
pastels. So get ready to get blown away, because the detail in her works are done with little chalk like pieces. I mean, I just think that that's so fascinating. I love it. And we haven't had anyone on who uses pastels. And so I'm very excited for you to show these off.
Maybe because being an art teacher, I have worked in all sorts of mediums, and I do. So I have watercolor and other things here, but pastel is my favorite. I once read where if you wanted to be a very famous artist and really make you should only do one medium. It's just like, I'm not focused. I'm like, let's do it all.
Well, she's whipping them out so fast, you know.
And there's times when I think I see something that I want to paint, and I think pastel. Sometimes I think watercolor.
Okay.
And so I just have different feels for different things. This
Right.
is a pastel. It's just a fall scene. You know, I grew up in New Mexico, the aspens turn, and I love that time of year.
Oh,
So-
right, like right now.
Like right now.
Wouldn't
And
be-
my Red River friends, I'm like, send me pictures.
Mhm, absolutely, yeah. This is beautiful, and you can just almost smell the pine. You know, just thinking of looking at this picture, that little pathway there. That's a great. The colors are so vibrant. This is a great.
And I thought, since it's fall right now, I'd bring that one. I do have other ones, and I'm working on some fall pictures. Well, of course, you know, those New Mexico friends.
Right. So is that what you use for your ideas?
I
Do
paint
you
mostly
photographs?
Photographs.
Uh-huh.
I have done a couple of plein air workshop type things. New Mexico Plein Air Association, New Mexico Plein Air Painters. I can't think of all the Anyway.
All the
but
letters.
all the letters. But twice I've gone up and done like a week-long plein air painting thing. It's incredible, but
Oh.
it's like 5 days of intensive painting. And on the last day, on Saturday, you have to have it framed and ready to show.
Ooh.
And it's like,
Wow.
wow. And there's so many professional artists that do that. But it's one thing to have a photo and know that pretty much what you're going to paint. And then you get out there in that wide open space and it's hard to draw it in and make it a small
I
painting.
guess I hadn't really thought
So-
about it, but I guess if you're doing plein air, you kind of have to frame it in your mind,
Yeah,
don't you? How
yeah.
far
Sometimes
you,
people have a vision thing, you see the artist doing this kind of thing, or they'll have a little card cutout thing where they can kind of focus
I
in.
never realized that that's what an artist was doing when they were
Yeah,
they were kind of framing something that they were looking at to paint.
Yeah.
Hello. Maybe you already knew that and I'm just catching up. I don't know, but
So these are a couple of watercolors. I only brought 3 today. There's another one down here.
okay.
This one is from Strasbourg, France. We got to go there a couple of years ago, and it was at night, and the light shining. And that's one of the things I look for is light in a painting. But the light's coming through those windows and the bicycles, and so I took that picture and then painted that. So, and then this is kind of a New Mexico scene. Just
What are these? The little
they're like
white-
little just bushes, cotton things that they're not cotton, but they're like little
just a New Mexico
yeah, just
native
yeah.
kind of plant of some sort. Is
Just
it
a
like a
fall
little
type thing.
flower?
Yeah, just
Kind of
little
got a little puff.
I'm not real good
Oh.
with plants. I just draw them
Right.
out.
She's not a botanist.
No,
Quit asking her all the specifics.
these are red buds here. I know that. I do a lot of
That's
sage pictures too from New Mexico, but this
Right.
was kind of a
Right, that's
different
that, and so this was a photograph, is it when you took,
Mhm.
or?
No, I probably stole that from somebody. I have friends that, will post something on Facebook or something, and I'm like, can I steal that one?
Right.
Uh-huh. And most of the time, people don't care.
Right,
So,
right. Well, that's beautiful. And just the mountains. I mean, I've gone to Red River, New Mexico, and I love the drive out there. I love where the landscape transitions from flat,
yes.
and then you get into West Texas, where you got the little scrub brush
Yes.
trees, and then there on the horizon, the mountains
Those
start
mountains right
appearing,
there.
and
yes.
it's a great drive. It's a great place to drive.
So these are some of my Oklahoma pictures. This is just down the street from me. I live out in the country, and I love the red buds in the springtime. And so I've taken 10 jillion pictures.
Mhm.
And so those are a couple of the paintings from
And
that.
again, these are pastels.
These are pastels here. Yes.
Okay. I just the native grass you have around, there. I mean, it's great. So tell me about working with pastels. I mean, I know I've learned that when you work with oils, you have to do a layer and then you have to walk away for a while that
Yeah.
dries completely. Acrylics, you can just,
I do some
It goes
oils,
fast.
but it's kind of slow. And like I said, I'm kind of a fast
right.
painter. When I sit down and when I'm creating, I want to create right then. I don't
Mhm.
want to have to wait a whole long. And that's also a reason for watercolor. But with pastels, usually your chalk, it's not very long. It's just applying it. It's very much like oil actually, in that you're going to apply it kind of in layers. Watercolor, you work from light to dark because you have to save your light.
Mm-hmm.
You can't go back over something and add the light later because it doesn't cover.
Right.
So pastels and oil and acrylic, you can add on top of each other. And so usually you're going to put down a lot of your darks and then add on to, and then, come back in with your lights.
Mhm.
So it goes more from dark to light, like an oil or acrylic would.
Okay. And that's what the pastel
Mhm.
is the same.
Yes.
So do you do these like on an easel? Is that what you work? Or
Yeah, usually on an easel,
Okay.
especially with the pastels because the chalk
The
falls
dust
down. So
falls off of it. I was just imagining.
can you
Yeah.
imagine Elena doing?
No. Well, I mean, that's what she does
She
on the
does, yes.
sidewalks, but yeah, something this detailed, I don't know. I can just imagine your hand.
Well, and I'm working on a pastel, and I didn't work on it this morning because it gets I get it all embedded all over.
Oh,
And so I
right.
thought, I don't want to have this like mechanic look today.
She's got very clean nails today, just for
Trying
you.
to- So you really, it does, and I actually have these little rubber finger things that you can use to kind of keep your fingers clean.
Oh,
But usually I have the tips of my fingers clean and the rest of me is filthy.
right. So do you use your fingers to?
Not much.
No.
No, the oil in your skin kind of messes things up sometimes. There's sometimes when you kind of smear, but usually I use, like if I put like one green down, I might pick up a different green. There's different hardnesses. There's like a very hard one called like a new pastel to a very soft one. And then there's kind of an in-between, like a
Okay.
Rembrandt pastel so sometimes a harder one will like do the same rubbing that your finger would. And so you can kind of
Okay.
blend with your colors that way.
When you do the little thin lines,
Mhm.
do you use one of like a harder one for that?
Well, I
or-
can, but usually the softer is like, I'm going to hit it last with the soft one. But a lot of the grass is soft, and I do have harder ones that I'm going to draw the things, but most any of them will draw.
Okay,
So,
and I mean, your colors look very layered,
yeah.
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 I mean, your whole picture, it's just very interesting so the chalk doesn't have to dry,
No.
but it doesn't move the chalk that's under it? Or
It
does
can
it?
sometimes, but and they actually have what's called a fixative, which is very similar to hairspray, and you can spray it on there and kind of fix it.
Mhm,
I don't usually use that because you kind of want your colors to blend somewhat.
mhm.
There's actually times when I've put a color down and then I have to get I have a paintbrush. It's kind of a stiff brush, and I scratch it back off because I can't get the next layer to stay on it. There's
Oh, okay.
these are done on sandpaper. I wish
Oh,
which is it's a very, very fine sandpaper that's made for pastels and stuff, and it holds so much more than some of the papers do, but yet it will get saturated at times, and then you might have to like scrape some off and start again.
interesting. I hadn't thought about that. So, I mean, it makes so much
Yeah.
sense though, because in my mind, I'm trying to figure out how it stays on and how it doesn't.
Yeah, and yeah, I get one of my son took one of my painting that it was at his house, and his 3-year-old took something and banged on it until all the pastel was now down here.
Oh,
So
So-
yes, it can come off.
so did you get to redo it?
I did.
mean, that's probably anyone but the grandkids.
That's right. Yeah.
Would
yeah.
not get away with that. The grandkids could get away with it. Well, that's interesting. But I mean, your picture is just so lovely with
Well, thank you.
the pastels. That's awesome. I love it. Let's talk about these with people.
Okay.
Um,
These are pastels also.
okay.
A friend of mine down in San Antonio, Phil Castle, he's supposed to be watching. I told him I would wave at
I
him.
feel he's waving right
Yeah.
there.
Hey,
Yes.
Phil. Anyway, he's a photographer, an amazing photographer, and he took this picture. And so I was after him going, Phil, can I use that? And so I call this Phil's girl, and that's one of the pictures he took. And I just loved the light. Once again, light hitting and
Mhm.
the darker places, and I'm sure that's what he saw through his lens. But I wanted to capture it with the pastels because they're so soft and it just
Right.
gives you that feel.
It
So,
does. I mean, it adds the texture to her skirt,
Yes.
that you can just imagine.
well, yeah, it gives you that tooling. What's that?
Tool.
Yeah, tool
yeah.
feel.
It does. It really does. Even the fact that you could make the jagged edges, I mean, that just, I don't know. It just seems like you could touch it and rub that with your fingers and feel that.
And then this is a friend of mine. This is TZ Wright. He lives in Oklahoma City. He played at my wedding, and he's a musician. And I found this on his Facebook page, and I was like, all right, got to do that because I love the light hitting him and the shadows cast by
Mm-hmm.
everything, and so I did that one.
Did you have an accordion at your wedding?
He does a lot of like bluegrass.
Little
folk music.
polka at the reception.
We did little schottish Jew. No, he also plays the piano and the guitar.
Right. I
Yeah.
was just kind of playing.
He's
that popped in my
a
head.
very amazing musician.
Well, I just, I mean, I don't know what the picture looked like, but you're certainly able to capture a lot of personality in his face.
Well, thanks. I didn't like finish off his fingers because they were moving,
Oh,
and
right.
so it's like kind of give you that little bit of movement.
Uh-huh. Exactly. Element of art there. That's with texture, movement. We've talked about several of those
Yeah.
things. So when you do this, do you sketch it first
Yes.
with what? What do you sketch with?
Different times. There's things that like these I would just head straight into them.
The red buds.
The red buds.
Okay.
But with this one has a background, so that gave me some time to, if I messed something up, I could go back, trim, do something here.
Uh-huh.
This is the actual paper color.
Okay.
And it has no background.
Okay.
And so I had to be very careful. So I'll sketch it over on a piece of paper, and then I have like I put it in there. I'm thinking of what it's called. Anyway, it's like a carbon paper, but it's
Okay.
pencil.
Okay.
And so it draws it. I can draw on top of, I put my sketch on the paper and get it the way I want it without having a lot of mistakes or little
Right.
extra lines or anything.
Or
that's not going to come
something
off.
you want to erase
Yeah,
or whatever. Right. Yeah. And so this is the sandpaper.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, it is very fine. You can't
yeah.
even really see the sand on it.
And
But
it comes in sometimes in different colors.
this is a great color though for a background.
Yeah, and they come in lighter colors and darker, and even there's some companies that make all sorts of multicolor things.
Oh.
I could get a blue background or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Well, that is, I hadn't really thought
Yeah.
about that. If you're using paint.
Well,
you
and
can
actually a lot of
paint.
times, even in watercolor or oils or acrylic, you'll paint the whole background because a white canvas,
Mm-hmm.
you need some other color in the background,
Right.
and it can show through. And in watercolor, they call that glazing. And Barb Nelson, I don't know if you've had Barb out there
No,
yet,
I haven't.
but she is like the master of glazing, and she does some really neat techniques. And so, but you do a whole background thing, let that dry, and then come back into it.
Okay. Okay.
But it covers your background, so you don't just have a white, or it didn't peek through some.
Right.
So you can see like there's some of the background peeping through here, but that was okay for me.
Right. Well, yeah, it kind of gives to the worn feeling of the
Yeah.
wall. So that, yeah. Okay, interesting. I'm learning a lot. I'm learning a lot. Not that I'll reproduce anything like this, but
These 5 here are actually newer than the rest of them.
okay.
This is a watercolor. I don't know if you can see that little one up there.
Yeah,
But
I can see that.
that's a New Mexico picture. There's a little town called Ocate, which is just off I-25 in northern New Mexico, kind of near Springer.
Okay.
And it's these old buildings that are adobe, but then they have like the peaked roofs and stuff, and they're all like ghost town type pictures.
Oh, cool.
And there's a lot of farms and ranches with those old houses, but
Uh-huh.
I love those, and I love once again the light with the shadow.
Mhm.
So that's why I did that.
Out there in the middle of nowhere where it's like 80 miles between Springer and Clayton, or
Yeah, this
where-
is actually south of Springer towards Wagon Mountain,
okay.
and then you cut off, and you can actually take that cutoff and come over into Angel Fire.
Ah.
But you're driving 9 miles of dirt road if you do that.
Oh,
So
well, you got to lock on the hubs. Here, let's take this down. Hold it a little closer so people can see that. The adobe. I mean, is that like an old tin roof?
yeah, an
On
old tin
that,
roof,
mhm.
and
Yeah.
anyway,
That's with the scenery and the grasses and everything. Beautiful. This looks like a postcard kind of.
well, I just
picture or
made
something.
postcards out of that too. So
Oh, there you go. There you go. That's funny. I think I'm up on the very top of that instead of the little
Oh, you
hook,
go.
but I think it'll hang. It's not very heavy.
Okay, this is a pastel. This is a friend of mine named Asher Boyer, and he's working that horse I just love the movement of it. I was like he was dancing with that horse, and I loved it. And I was gonna do it kind of like I've done certain these without doing a background, but when I finished, I still didn't feel like I'd captured the movement. So this was a little experimental, but I just tried like having the light going every different ways, like it's coming from him moving.
And it does create that feeling, I
So-
think. I mean, of course, the mane is moving, the tail, the rein
The reins.
there. But it does seem like the background adds.
Yeah,
To
and once again, the light, you have it coming and hitting the cowboy and casting the shadow.
That shadow.
And that's
I know,
always
that's
one of my favorite things.
right.
is
You
the-
can just imagine the
just-
sun be like straight overhead coming down on him almost.
Asher's actually from here in Oklahoma, and it was an Oklahoma picture, but I added some mountains back there because it just needed some
Wow.
color too. So
That's a really great shot. And I like the way that you left the detail off of like his
but
face.
it was really, and I probably could have gone maybe darker with his face because that was so much shadow there.
Well, it still looks. That's like from his hat.
Yeah, from his hat.
Yeah,
and
I
the-
see what you're saying.
yeah.
It's very
But-
nice.
And then these two are New Mexico pictures. This is a friend of mine who is a cowboy, but he, yeah, I know it,
Yes.
obviously, but he in Red River, you have the horse rentals. There's always been and he has always loved renting the horses out in the summertime, and he's still a part of that. And anyway, he was there one day. I always go, this is also one of the horses. This is a mule from the riding stables. And I take pictures of them every summer because I just love the mules. They're so cool. And so I did this picture. I have another one at home with the mule standing out under the barn. But then I ran into Bruce. This is Bruce McShann. And I saw him there and I thought, he's got such the great cowboy face
Right.
that I had to do that. So.
It is a great portrait. I mean, I just love this so much. So did this mule, I was curious, to have the brightly colored
yes, it
harness,
did. Mhm.
really? Because that makes that picture very fun.
Yeah,
Just a
little bit of color that
Mhm.
changes things.
Mhm.
You can see that he was real happy with me taking his
Yeah.
picture. His ears are back.
Yeah, his eyes are
Giving me
kind
that
of,
look.
kind of half closed, like, wait just a minute. Well, I probably have ridden some of his horses
probably
when I was
have,
out there. Probably have.
Through the years, he may have taken you on a trip.
He might have been our guide on one of those trips. That's exactly right. So this has been, these are fun to me because it kind of brings back some of those Red River memories. And if you've traveled, if you're familiar with New Mexico, things like that, some of these probably are,
Yeah, you might recognize some of them.
yeah, that's to me, those are some of the reasons why you might buy something like this.
Yeah.
It has it may not be your exact memory, but it causes you to have a memory, of something, a time, a place.
I was going to say that there's the Star Trading Post on Main Street in Red River.
Mhm.
And when I was a little girl, there was a man named Peralt. Anyway, he would sit there and do portraits, and that fascinated me. And so I rode my bike up and down the street, and I had long braids. And so he asked my mother if he could paint me. And so I got to sit there and have him paint me. Anyway, but I was at Bruce McShann's house one time, and there he is as a little boy with that same. And I have friends who all have a portrait done of them by the same guy at the Star. And I just think I'm gonna go when I retire. I'm gonna go.
And be the little lady.
The little lady at the
They'll
Star.
say there was a little lady named Lou who used to sit on the sidewalk.
That's right.
So this one you had to do the same way as the accordion because this is the paper
Right.
as
So,
the
yeah.
background. So you didn't, and I guess that guy
Yeah,
too.
I did him pretty much that way. When I first had him drawn, I had his forehead odd, And I always send pictures to my daughter and she says, oh, no, change that or fix this or looks great. And she's like, oh, mom. So I did have to go back in, and you can erase on these, but it sometimes might not come off. So.
Well, I mean, I don't know what was wrong with it, but her advice was, well, it looks great. It looks great. So let's look at these two because these are very different.
Yes.
From, yeah, you can stand there on that side, or you want her on this, just like this?
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah, there you go.
Last year, before COVID, everything's BC back then.
Right, BC.
BC. It was
That's awesome.
in June, or early spring, my daughter called me from Wichita Falls and said, Wichita Falls Art Association is putting on an art battle. Let's do this. And so I didn't have a clue what that was, but it's a national and international competition. And you can Google art battle and see their website. And of course, with now after COVID, they haven't been doing as many, but what they did, and this was a money raiser for their Wichita Falls Art Association.
Oh.
And so in June, my daughter did the art battle. And so it's in a warehouse venue, and they have like a stage in the center, and there's tables all around, and there's food and drink, and there's upstairs, and they have 6 artists on the stage. They give you 20 minutes, and they give you the paint and the canvas, and you must paint.
Wow.
And then the clock is going, and the music is blaring, and the lights are flashing, and
It's
people
like
are walking around the stage, and it's the wildest thing. Anyway, well, so she won in June. And so there's 2 rounds. They do the first 6 artists, and then they set the paintings over to the side, and everybody votes. And then they have another 6 artists, so same thing. And then the top 4, 2 from each round, go to the finals. So in the first round, you do an 18 by 24, which is this. And so I did this in August, and this was my first round. And of course, this is from Kittyland, and this is my grandson.
Right.
And so, you know, you're up there painting, and people are like, where is she going with this? And then, you know, and it's fast, and I'm a fast painter. And I practiced like every day. I had several of these paintings at my house because I practiced, whitewashed, paint.
Right.
Anyway, and so I gave one of my practice pieces to the Kiwanis so that it was in their auction, but this one's mine. So that's my grandson at the Kiwanis thing, and it won. So I got to go to the second round.
Right.
So this is the second round, and it's 24 by 30, and it's still the same 20 minutes. And it was go, and you just did it, and you don't know what everybody else is doing. You're just painting as fast as you can. And so I had practiced these poppies, and it took me from June when Jesse won to August to finally figure out what I was going to paint. And you know, and my daughter, she's my critic, she said, "Go big, go red. You can't go wrong."
Words to live by. Words to live by, right
So
there.
that was the poppies, and so this is one of my practice pieces. Also.
Oh, okay. So
And
how
so-
did that one do?
It won. I won in August.
You
Yeah.
won. Okay.
My daughter won in June, and I won in August. And then we went to November, and they put us in different rounds. Technically, you know, we probably should have not gone up against each other there. We should have gone to like a different anyway. But still, so she did the first one, she won her round. I won my round, and then we went to the final round, and Josh Mindeman over in, I believe he's from Apache, Oklahoma. He won the final round.
Is that
And
right?
it was funny because her friend who was doing the run, Bob Barrow, is the coordinator for the art battle. And he said he didn't want us to go up against each other in June. He said, you'll split your votes. So that's why she did June, I did August. We came together and split our votes.
Split your votes. Good for you, Josh, but
That's right. He actually, he did an amazing job too. So it wasn't bad to lose to him.
well,
But then you were supposed to go to state, and then Wichita Falls was supposed to have nationals, but that was COVID. So they haven't
Wow.
ever done those.
was that fun or was it stressful?
It was a little stressful, but at the same time, it made me paint every day. I got up every morning, and knocked out a couple of these because I had to get it down to the right timing, and I had to be able to do a finished product.
Mm-hmm.
And coming up with something that you could do that fast and make it look okay was it was hard. But then at the same time, you know, like I told you, Elena has slowed me down because
Right.
I got where I was just like,
Right, just a
painting, just
machine.
yeah, just knocking them out, you know. And I
Yeah.
needed to slow down and be more careful, and so
Right.
she's brought that to
And
me.
so obviously this would be acrylic paint. Is it
Yes,
acrylic?
yes, it's
Okay.
acrylic.
Acrylic because it dries so fast
Right.
and you can mix your colors and
Yeah,
go with it,
you
go
have to
over the
also think
top.
about up there on the stage, it was not going to dry in the 20 minutes
Uh-huh.
necessarily.
Uh-huh.
And they had a really great paint. It was like painting with butter. It was just,
Ooh.
I was like, oh, I want this stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, but you did have to think about, you know, like I couldn't paint the blue and then paint these on top.
Mm,
I had to paint around it, and because that wasn't going, the blue would not have dried. like that.
right. Right. And so you couldn't have, laid it right on top.
And I learned a lot of that because my daughter had already done this,
Mm-hmm.
and she had a buffalo, and she had painted the whole canvas kind of a yellow green color, and that was the color of her buffalo then that was the lightest lights, and then she went to the painted the dark in on top of it. It was amazing.
Ooh.
So
Yeah. Wow. Well, that sounds like a super fun.
it was a lot of
kind
fun.
of thing to do. But the most interesting part is she was training for it, like an athlete trains
That's
for
right,
a race
you
or
had
something.
to.
She
Yeah,
was
I wanted to
training
win.
for this painting competition, and you did. Well, I mean, you know, and well
Yeah,
done. Yeah, as when you and your daughter weren't competing against each other, which makes me think we need daughter on this.
You do. You
too.
need Jessie
Yeah,
on here
uh-huh.
too.
We're gonna
work
have
on
to
her.
do that. But I mean, these are beautiful, and so you don't typically paint. I mean, maybe you have before, but nothing. I don't see anything that
Like
is
this.
big and
No, I don't.
bold like this.
I don't usually. My daughter does more, and that was fun too. It was just so totally different,
Mm-hmm.
you know. It took me out of my element. And I don't know how many artist friends came up to me and said, "I couldn't have done that." And I was like, "Oh yeah, you can paint it." And they were, "No, I couldn't have gotten up in front of people." And I was like, "Oh, that's not so."
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. No, but it's not for everyone.
No.
I hadn't even thought about that as a competition and people being aware of people watching them and how that might make
think
them anxious.
I don't know about sitting on the porch and doing portraits and having people watch me,
Right.
but up there you were so focused with your 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
You just went for it. You just went at it, and even though the crowd is walking around you and hollering and there's beer involved.
Yeah.
It was like a boxing match, you know. I mean, you just had to be focused on what you were doing. And
That had to be so fun to be there watching.
well,
I mean, really.
I took, you know, of course, I had a lot of my family there, but Darcy and a bunch of the ladies from CTAC came, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, that was so much fun!" And the people watching, it was just great.
Right. Well,
So.
hopefully we'll be able to get back to some of those things.
Yes,
You know,
I'm ready.
in the sooner than later. We're gonna hope for that. Well, Lou, it has been so much fun having you
Well,
on here. It's been.
I wanted to
great.
beat Michael Davidson. He was a lot of fun. But I got to be as good as mine.
She's been training for that too,
That's right.
Michael Davison. If you get a chance to watch this. Well, your work is beautiful.
Well, thank you.
And I guess you have more pieces than what you brought.
Well, you know, last year I did a show here,
Uh-huh.
and it was my painted ladies,
Yes.
the ladies that I'd painted with for 5 or 6 years. We did watercolor, and I had all those.
Yes.
At the same time, I was doing a mother-daughter show at CTAC
Okay.
the same months, and so I had gotten a lot of art ready.
Right.
And so, yeah, just call me. I
Okay.
got art.
All right. She's got stuff. She can show it to you. You can go to her webpage again.
That's
We'll
right.
have all that information there in the comments. Thank you very much for being on Trail Talk today. We have enjoyed it, and your excitement about art and your support in our community.
Well, thank
We
you.
appreciate it so much.
Well,
It-
thanks.
yeah.
I appreciate what the Heritage Center does here. You know, it's once again, you have the wonderful gallery and the art shows that you put on, and and I love just the whole museum. You need to come and see this museum, the interactive part. I've brought relatives here because it's just too much fun.
It is fun. I'm gonna pay her later for that.
That's
little
right. It's a little-
Promo for us. Just kidding. But maybe not. No. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching Trail Talk today. And Lou, when it's time to sign off, we ask everyone to unmute themselves. So your friend Phil, unmute yourself. And on 3, we say happy trails.
Okay.
Okay, so 1, 2, 3.
Happy
Happy
trails.
trails. Bye.
Good seeing you.
Yeah.